great Scott!
Are you a sports fan who loves to have a good laugh?
Oh, yeah!
Then you're in the right place.
I'm gonna make him an offer again.
Life moves pretty fast.
Patriots win the
Welcome
Super Bowl!
to the Man Cave Chronicles.
Brady has his fifth!
Hey everybody, welcome to this week's podcast. This week I have stand-up comedian Drew Lynch. Drew, how you doing?
Hey, how's it going?
All right, so what's new with you? You been touring lately?
I mean, lately has been the past a few years, I guess. So I mean, it's non-stop. So it was good to be able to like take a break and just do a cool podcast.
Yeah. What so tell the listeners a little bit about yourself. I mean, I know everybody knows you from America's Got Talent and everything, and we'll talk about that. But let's start with where you're originally from.
I'm originally from Indiana, in Indianapolis, Indiana, and I grew up in Vegas, and now I live in Los Angeles.
Yeah. How was it growing up in Indiana?
Definitely different. I mean, I personally pride myself on being from the Midwest. There's some really wholesome people in that area, and my family, raised me with some good some strong principles, and I got some just caring family, pretty good childhood, and then we moved to Vegas, and that was kind of an interesting transition.
Yeah, I mean, you go from like the mountains and stuff like that to Vegas.
Yeah, it was definitely. I mean, climate-wise, it was different, but also culturally, there was just a lot more stimulus and a lot that you get introduced to at such a young age in a city like Las Vegas.
Yeah. Did you enjoy living in Las Vegas?
I actually did. I really did. But it kind of desensitized me to a lot of things. I lived there when I was from the time I was like 9 to maybe 19, so maybe 10 years. And there's just it's everything to the max there. So there's there's alcoholism, there's drugs, there's naked girls, there's gambling. There's all of that. So, I grew up where there's billboards of like naked girls on the side, on billboards on the side of the freeway and stuff. So, I mean, like the first time I ever saw a girl naked, I was like, yeah, but what else is there?
Yeah.
I was like, what's your personality? So.
Yeah.
Huh?
I was gonna say, like, I went to Vegas with my wife once, and we went there for 4 days, and by the fourth day, we're ready to leave, and I'm like, oh my god, there's a whole other section that we missed because it's just so huge there.
Oh yeah, and the strip just goes on for for however long. So it's just interesting growing up there before you could do anything. Like before you could gamble or drink or any of that, which I don't do much. I still don't do much of that now. But like as a kid, I just just being around it was kind of interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a big drinker myself either, but I realized while I was there, like, there's more to do even if you're not a drinker and a gambler.
Oh sure, yeah. There's a ton of stuff, and there's a ton of great restaurants and just really unique ideas that people have and that they'll put in casinos and stuff. So it's great.
Yeah. So how did you start up in stand-up comedy?
Well, from the time I was 19, I moved out of my house in Los Las Vegas, my parents' place. I moved to LA, kind of just to pursue acting. Because my whole life, like, I went to a theater arts school in middle school, and then a theater arts school in high school, and I was just that was my dream for forever, was to just be an actor. And interestingly enough, when I moved out to LA, I had some some representation for I had done some shows on like Nickelodeon and Disney and stuff, and nothing huge, but just stuff that kind of was letting me know I was on my way to doing what it was that I was doing. And I had a sports injury, if you consider softball as a sport. I was playing shortstop on a company team, and a grounder was hit my way and hit me in the throat, and I fell back and hit my head, from which I had a concussion, and I went home that day and I went to sleep on the concussion, which you're not supposed to do. So I lost like a lot of my motor skills became quite diluted, and I didn't have as much control, and so now I started to stutter from then on, from that head injury. And interestingly enough, like my representation for acting, like they dropped me. They said, we can't represent you anymore because no one's going to cast someone who talks the way you talk in Hollywood, which at the time was devastating for me.
Yeah.
But what did happen was, the company team that I was playing on was a comedy club team, and the only reason I worked there was I worked as at the tickets booth because it was a perfect night job. Like, I needed a night job so I could have my days open to audition and do stuff for acting. So it was a good little night job. And then the comedy club still had me working there when I post accident. And one day I just got on stage, and I guess kind of started talking about the frustrations of stuttering and of my voice, and stuff that I had, feelings that I had harbored when I was in the hospital. I was very angry. I was very lost and disappointed, and so in that way, the fact that a door kind of closed on acting, another one opened up, and then in stand up.
Yeah, and from what I can tell, it's like you're having a blast doing it too.
I mean, it's a lot. I mean, it's a lot of fun. There's no other job that's like it. Just because if you're having a problem or a complaint or an insecurity or a frustration, you get to kind of bring that on stage, and then I think the audience, for the most part, they understand all of those emotions or all of those feelings, and they're inclined to want you to succeed because you're being hopefully vulnerable enough with them that you can give the foundation of comedy to them.
Who are like some of your favorite comedians? Like, do you have anybody that you look up to, or like that you want to like model yourself after? I love I used to watch I love Bill Burr. I used to watch Dave Chappelle. I'm a fan of Louis' comedy, obviously, as a person that's difficult to support in recent events, but I'm a huge fan of his comedy. Bill Burr is great as well. I mean, there's actually just a ton of guys who I like Gary Goldman and John Mulaney. I like Bo Burnham. All those guys are just they're very talented, and actually lots of those guys came out of the Boston area. Yeah.
Interestingly enough. But I struggle a lot with mental health. So I constantly I work I work hard, and I work often, and I have a pretty heavy imbalance in my life based on you know you're supposed to, I'm not good at balancing, like say like relationships, or having like a time to do nothing, like to do, just have like a vacation or do a thing. I very much work a lot, just because I'm constantly trying to I guess validate myself from the past, in that, like, acting might not have worked out, but in this way the universe kind of chose this path. And so I just constantly have this drive, or this feeling that I need to do I need to do the next thing, I need to do another thing, just to I guess just to try and get out of my own way. Any activity that you can do that puts you in your body, and gets you out of your head, and gets you out of your own way, from hating on yourself, or becoming critical of your art or your work. It's great, because that's all we have. Is we have people who we create for, and people who enjoy the creation, or the entertainment. And I want to be able to do that, because I want people to I want people to feel good, or I want people to feel better, or if they are having a tough time with something, then I can I don't know, maybe make it better for a second. And any comedian that has as strong of a work ethic as that is someone that I look up to.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good feeling, and a positivity thing. Like like you say, you wake up every day and you motivate yourself to go to the next step.
Yeah. It's I mean, it's and it's unsettling. It's hard. It's hard for anybody, I think, around me to be around, like, especially like relationship wise, or it's just because it's incessant. So sometimes I have to remind myself to take a step back and be like, oh no, you should take a break, or take a second for yourself, or take a breather, or just be a person for a day,
Yeah, and I mean, like you said, your accident, it knocked you down, but you got back up and you're fighting, which is, not a lot of people can say they can do something like that.
Well, I mean, in my opinion, the option became very clear. You either let such a thing kind of control your life and define it, or you can accomplish things despite it. And a lot of people have been very kind about expressing that, oh, you inspire me, or I'm inspired by what it is that you have done. And as much as I appreciate that, to me it was just very apparent, the decision that I had to make, which was you let it beat you, or you have to beat it. So
yeah. Do you remember the first time you stepped on stage to do stand-up?
To do stand-up, I did. So I had tried to do stand-up like 2 or 3 times prior to my accident, and it just wasn't successful, really, because I didn't understand the mechanics of stand-up, and I thought that it was a much different thing. And I think the accident taught me something kind of brilliantly, in that when I went on stage and I had this speech issue, it was very apparent to everybody in the room, comics and audience, that it was an emotionally raw thing, but it was still so fresh that I was able to joke about it. And I think the comics that are able to play something that is so tragic, or so close to being tragedy, and then just giving it that little bit of levity, or that little bit of a twist that is able to open it up to being a joke, that's so commendable to me. And I think the first time I was on stage, is however the joke sounded or whatever, or the lack thereof, I don't think was important to people in the room. I think what was important to them was that they understood that this was a thing that I had to do and a thing that I was going through, because I knew this accident was so fresh, and I needed an outlet. I needed to feel like I could still do something despite the circumstances that have recently transpired.
Yeah. What? So tell us a little bit about your the YouTube channel that you have, and that you do the videos with your service dog Stella.
Yeah, it's kind of awesome. It's kind of an awesome journey, I guess, just because I started that YouTube channel, I think almost 3 years ago, and I wanted to just kind of start doing, I wanted to do. Well, the reason I started doing it was so my dog Stella, she goes with me everywhere anyway. So I was like, you know what, people who like dogs or whatever, I'll start creating content, kind of geared towards joke writing about dogs, or just joke writing about my experiences in general. She and I have every experience together because she's always with me. So I started to do the channel just as an exercise for joke writing and putting out content at the same time. Someone who actually inspired me for that was the Monday Morning podcast, the Bill Burr's podcast. He's pretty incredible at he just writes down bullet points on like a piece of paper, and then he'll just kind of talk or rant on those topics. And I think that's how he's become such a sharp joke writer and such a great comedian. And he's such a good he's great at building stories and putting in jokes, implementing the comedy within it, and because he's constantly working that muscle every week. So my channel is just, me and my dog. We sit in separate chairs in front of the camera, and I'll just kind of talk about, whatever experiences I've had that day, and I'll make a joke. Like it's always something like, someone said this stupid thing to me, or I tried to do this and it didn't succeed. So it's very much a vlog type channel.
Yeah.
And then as the video is, as I'm talking, like my dog has little captions that pop up over her. Like she sits perfectly still in the chair, and her face is kind of always unimpressed and poised. So it matches with her her kind of negative commentary about what I'm trying to do, which is always trying to be very positive about a situation or joking about a situation. And that was 3 years. I mean, the first year I did it, it took a while to get some subscribers, and then the second year I had a goal to hit 100,000 subscribers, and I think from the help of America's Got Talent and stuff, that boosted the numbers to getting to past that. So we ended up getting past, by the end of last year we had I think 230,000 subscribers, and then the beginning of this year I had the goal to at the end of the year have 1 million, and we have I think 1.1 million or something silly. So so it's been kind of nice, just being able to set goals and then have them come to fruition because of like we talked about, hard work and
yeah.
Yeah.
What how many videos a week do you put out usually on the YouTube?
So I do two a week. We do Mondays and Thursdays. And then I just, actually, as of today, as I was mentioning before, as of today, we just started an animated series that's going to come out once every other Saturday. So today was the very first episode of that. So I'll keep the vlog going with the I'll keep those videos going, but I just wanted to add something a little edgier, and also something that's animated, and something that I created that can utilize the platform that we have into other avenues and hopefully reach an audience of different people. It's all for everybody else. Like it's all for like there's some things that I do for me. Like I enjoy doing the vlog because that helps my improve my joke writing, and I'll enjoy this new animated series because that'll teach me how to produce and how to better write in a different in an episodic format. And but for the most part, I want everybody else to feel like whatever better about their there's people that come up after shows when we're touring, which is just nonstop, and they'll just say I was struggling with this thing, but this video helped, or your videos helped, or I was happy to discover that you feel this way about a thing. And those are the little moments that remind me that I can keep going, or that I should keep doing this, so people can feel better about it.
Yeah, this animation thing that you're going to come out with, is that going to be on YouTube, or is this something where you have?
It'll be on the same channel. It'll just be every other Saturday. And then you know what? Next year I might look into starting maybe like my own podcast as well, just to try and keep the goals. Yeah. Keep it up and keep expanding in a way that that pushes your comfort zone.
There's nothing wrong about us having goals with stuff.
Yeah, man. I mean, my problem is I don't take the time to appreciate the victories. Like I don't that's my issue sometimes, is I struggle with trying to be like, no, you did it, like be proud. And I think that it's a good and bad thing, because it's a good way to stay humble and stay grounded, but it's also another way to spiral into feeling not confident about yourself, which is of anything comedy has been it's just been it's the conduit to helping me feel better about myself.
Yeah, I mean, like when I first started the podcast too, I wasn't like 100% sure that I was confident to do this, and I'm 35 episodes in, and I've had comedians on, I've had actors on, and it's like I'm having a blast doing it, and it's like I want to keep doing this.
Yeah, as you should, and I totally relate to the feeling of just being like, gosh, should I keep doing this? And then somehow, miraculously, the universe will send you, we'll send you a thing, we'll send you like a thing or like a sign or whatever that's like, no, you should keep doing this, or you'll reap the benefits of some hard work that you put in. And then you're like, okay, now I know I'm on the right path, because I can't tell you the number of times I wanted to stop doing the videos on YouTube, just because it was so much work in between touring and trying to write more stand-up, and then writing in addition to doing the videos. And early on, I had to edit them myself, and I filmed them, and I had to take a camera and stuff on the road with me, because it was a whole to do. And it's just it's helpful in knowing that you can see you can see the benefits of the work that you put in.
Well, and that's exactly what it is with this too. It's like I do all my edits myself. I push myself. I'm the one that's trying to get people on, and there's people that have responded. They've asked me to come on, to come on the show, and there was a couple times where I'm like, I'm going to stop this, and my wife's like, why are you going to stop this? You're having fun. You have a good thing going. Why stop it?
Yeah, absolutely. I gotta get one of those. A wife.
A wife. Well, you will. You're a good dude.
The Man Cave Chronicles on Twitter at the MCC Podcast. We'll be right back.
Hey guys, Brian Padone here, founder of Quiet Punch. When I'm not listening to the Man Cave Chronicles, you can catch me filming one of my live workouts on quietpunch.com. Check it out today. That's quietpunch.com.
Rotoware.com.
Rotoware.
Big shout out to the Rotoware company.
It's so goddamn comfortable.
Can't recommend them enough, man.
Yeah.
High quality t-shirts.
Shout out to Rotoware.com.
You see me rocking the shirts on the videos and stuff like that.
Where'd you get that? Rotoware?
That is courtesy of Rotoware.
It's just the highest quality of shirts.
Yeah, I really like the baseball designs you got here.
The shirt is beautiful.
Everybody who I've talked to who has the shirt basically says they can't believe how good the quality is.
Yeah, kid, I've seen you've been getting a lot of love. You said you've been only running for a little over a month.
CBS guys are tweeting out shirts. I'm seeing fantasy personalities everywhere digging this guy's shirt.
I love the Run DFS shirt.
It comes with baseball cards with all the different shirts on it.
Rotoware on Twitter. Check out rotoware.com.
Oh my God, is this shirt making love to me right now? Like, what's going on? I love this shirt.
Yo, monkeys, it's me, DDP, Diamond Dallas Page, the king of bada bing, the master of the diamond cutter, the three-time world champion, WWE Hall of Famer, and CEO and founder of DDP Yoga. And you, monkey, well, you're listening to my main man, the man with a plan, Elias, on Man Cave Chronicles. And that's not a bad thing. That's a good thing. Bang!
Have a question for the Man Cave Chronicles? Tweet them now at the MCC Podcast.
So let's talk about okay, America's Got Talent.
Sure.
How did you decide I'm gonna go and try out for this?
It's kind of a funny story, just because I had auditioned for that show a month before. The year before. The year before that, I had auditioned for it, and they told me no, that I wasn't ready. So I went back, and I remember when I auditioned, it was kind of it was a crazy thing, just because, like, you're in a room of people that are, it was the day after Valentine's Day is when I went, and they were starting auditions at like 7 a.m. And I remember I had drank with the girlfriend that I was with at the time, and I woke up the next day and I was like, I was a little groggy and a little hungover because it was so early, and I still got up around 5 a.m. and at the time I was like, at the very least I could still make a very cool vlog, so I'll try and I'll record stuff of me auditioning or whatever. So I went and I stood in line, and at like 5 a.m. and then there were other acts that were there. There were other people that were there was it's so weird, because when you're in that waiting room of all these variety acts, there's people practicing the thing that they're doing. There's vocalists that are warming up, and there's dancers that are stretching, and there's jugglers that are juggling. And as a comedian, you're just sitting there. You're just like, I'm not going to practice my jokes. Like, yeah. It's just And then when you audition, I auditioned initially for just one lady. It's just one lady at the end of a little hall, or like a little room, and you're auditioning in front of her, but you have to face the other auditionees. So there's like a room of like 8 people, and they would take us in like groups, so maybe 8 to 12 people. And they auditioned for, like, in front of her, but for you. So there, like, if someone went up, like, if there was like an impersonator, and he went up, and he had to stand in front of, all of the other 8 or 9 of us, who were ostensibly, we're all competing for the same slot. So what's difficult about that setup is no one really wants the other person, like anyone else, to succeed. So like if someone's a good singer, like you can tell they're a good singer. If someone's got a cool dance routine, you could see that or whatever. But as a comedian, you kind of have to rely on the feedback from them as an audience. So when I went to audition, when it was my turn to get up and audition, I was facing them, and I was doing like my jokes, and no one was laughing or responding or anything except for the lady who was the producer, who was just down the, like, she was, you know, like, she was like adjacent to like, she was like facing me, but I was like profile to her because I was facing the other auditionees, and so she was the only one who was laughing. So instead of performing for them, I just turned to her and I was like, all right, I guess I'll just perform to you. And I was just kind of making fun of, you know, how well it wasn't going, and I was joking about, you know, the fact that I could hear other people auditioning in the room next to me, and just, I don't know, just trying to be in the moment of that. And then she said, all right, well, thanks everybody, we'll call you, which, and I mean, in Hollywood or in auditions, that kind of means no when they say that. So we all left, and I was about halfway out of the convention hall when one of the security guys stopped me, and he was like, hey, where are you going? And I was like, what? She said she said, we'll call you. That means no, so I'm gonna go get some sleep. And he was like, no, she wants to see you. So then she called me back into the room, and she just talked with me one-on-one and asked me a lot about my story. And from then she moved me on to, she said, I like you, I want you to go see these people. So I had to go into a different room to do like an interview with them, and then they moved me to a different room where you audition for another person, and if that person likes you, then you audition for the producers, which is about eight people, and they were all sitting there with laptops. And by that time, I'd been in so many rooms and in so many auditions that I was like, this is crazy. This is already way farther than, you know. Yeah. This is already way farther than I could have anticipated getting. And so I was right there in front of the producers, and they each had like a laptop up in front of them. So it was performing for basically like 8 laptops and people kind of behind them who were just looking at the screens. And so instead of doing like, you know, jokes about instead of doing jokes that I had written or whatever initially, I was just kind of poking fun at each of them, just trying to say stuff like off the cuff, and just kind of, you know, joke about the fact that they weren't paying much attention. And then when they were paying attention, then I would go into, you know, like jokes that I had written, and then they were like, all right, well, we'll let you know. And then the next day I got a phone call that said that they were going to fly me out to the East Coast to audition for the judges. And that was just insane. So then I auditioned for the judges, and Howie Mandel gave me like a little advanced ticket kind of thing. So I got to advance to the finals just based off of my audition. And then I had to do a few more rounds, and like I I ended up getting way farther than I ever would have thought. I got, you know, by the end of it, when I got second place, I couldn't even, you know, believe it, just because there were so many other talented acts and people that I was competing with that I felt deserved to be there. So it was just kind of incredible to get that amount of support from people across the country whom I have not met yet.
What about Howie Mandel? He must have gave you some great advice.
Yeah, he's just great. I filmed my hour special last year, and he came and did like a part of it. Like he introduced me, and I did like an interview together, and I've gotten to know him fairly well over my career, and he's just he's somebody who he also struggles with. You know, he has his own neuroses, and he has his own things that he does comedy despite, you know, having anxiety and his depression and his OCD and everything. And in the same way, he just related to me so much when I did the show, just because I guess he and I are just, we're similar in what it is we struggle with, what it is that we're pursuing despite having those obstacles. I remember when he was talking to me during my audition. He was like, well, like I did my audition, and right before he gave me the golden buzzer, which advanced me, he was talking to me about there just being a light at the end of at the end of the tunnel when you have a thing that clearly, can stop you, but you decide to not let it. And in that moment, I forgot that I was in front of a bunch of people. I forgot that I was in this beautiful theater or anything, and I even forgot who Howie Mandel was, because it just felt like he was just talking to me as though he was another person who had the same struggles, or even just another comedian who was validating another comedian. It finally felt like, okay, something may make sense. So he's just been a very big advocate for my career since then, which has been just incredible.
Yeah. Yeah, I understand about that whole. I went through like a whole anxiety thing too. I know what the feeling is about stuff like that.
Yeah.
So after everything ended with America's Got Talent, like what took off for you right after that?
Well, after that we just kind of like I was kind of like, what do I do, because I lost the show. So in my mind I was like, oh, I want to win so bad. I want to win so badly. Comedians never won. I want to win. And I was sitting. I remember this. It was the plane ride back from New York. It was such a sad plane ride, because everyone else around me was like, look, you got as far as you could get before ostensibly, like you got as far as you could without winning it. And in my head I was like, but I wanted to win it. I wanted just a little bit. For just whatever ego I had, but that moment there, that in my mind, that was the goal that I had. And I was like, I just want it. I want one thing to be able to say, yeah, I did that thing. And it didn't happen, which I'm kind of, at the time I was very much flummoxed by, but now I appreciate it even more, because it just taught me that it always teaches you to be better. Every time you get a no, or every time you get rejected, or which I've had a lot of. Like I've had so much of. It taught me that it's not going to be that easy, and that if you want something that's worth getting, or if you want a goal that's worth attaining, you have to set your expectation to be met with failure. The year before I even got on AGT, I talked to a friend of mine, and I was like, hey man, how did you get on TV? And he was like, well, I just got up everywhere. I did stand up every single night he's like, I set a goal to do 500 sets in a year, and then I did it, and then miraculously I got on TV. So I heard him say that, and I was like, all right, well, I'm gonna do 500 sets in a year. So the year before I got on America's Got Talent, I did like 592 or something. So I almost did like 600 sets that year, miraculously, I was either experienced enough, or I experienced enough failure or enough rejection that it propelled me to, I guess, rise to the occasion again. And when I realized that I lost the show, I wasn't understanding the fact that I got this huge platform of people who had seen me, or people who were watching what I wanted to do next, or who would come see me live. And so I toured. I haven't stopped touring since then, but and it was that much better, because I got to be in front of these audiences who wanted to see me, or wanted to see what I did next, or see maybe a little unhinged and not so caged, like I was on America's Got Talent. Like that's a very difficult show to be on as a comedian, because you have to find jokes that are funny enough that excel you or advance you to the next round, but nothing that offends people to where they won't vote for you. So what a difficult tightrope to walk. And I empathize with, or I sympathize, I guess, with any performer who had to do that down on that show. And because I think people are incredibly sensitive, and what's unfortunate, or something that I'm discovering now in terms of evolving and what I do on my YouTube channel is, a lot of people, they might not be fans as much of fans from what they saw on America's Got Talent as what they see now, or what they see during the live shows. Like earlier on in my career, I joked a lot about my voice, and I made jokes about my stutter. And now I rarely joke about it at all, because I want to make a joke up top that addresses that I have it, and then move on, because I don't want it to be a crutch, and I want to be seen as someone who can make jokes about other things, despite having that. It's always despite having it. And so, like earlier this, I came off the show, and I got to do a series with Mark Maron on his show Maron, and I had done an independent movie, and I did another TV show, and then earlier this year I was on Conan, so that was my first late night appearance, which is something that's another thing. Like before I was on America's Got Talent, I was emailing the booker of Conan to try and get on that, and I had some correspondence back and forth, but then I got on AGT instead, and I guess it just kind of fell through the cracks. And then, I did a festival earlier this year, because again, I'm just constantly touring, and I did a festival where the booker was there, and he was like, "Hey man, I'm glad I finally seen you live over all these years. I want you to come do Conan." And so I don't know. I'm not saying this in any way that's supposed to be coming with. I'm not gloating over this. This isn't clout. I'm just saying this because it's just been a whirlwind of an experience. And I guess saying it out loud always reminds me that it's saying it out loud to someone, I guess, helps me be like, no, you should be, I guess, a little bit excited that you did all those things, just because you made those goals.
Yeah, you seem like you're very humbled about it. You're like calm about it, which is it's a good thing, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want. Yeah, I would never want to come off as someone who's boasting, or someone who's not supportive of someone else's endeavors. Like that, to me, I think. I don't know why it is comedy is the thing I do, but I know that I'm really good at meeting someone or chatting with them, and finding out what it is that they're good at, and then utilizing that to advocate their marketability. And that is something that I've always been very good at it. I've always been very good at meeting someone and be like, hey, you know what you could do? You could do a podcast that's this, or you could do that, or But what's difficult is always finding someone who has the same drive or the same motivation. Sometimes they'll get in their own way, and they'll be like, I don't want to do it because it could fail. And that's true. I mean, that's always true. You can fail at anything. Like failure could happen all the time, and failure is going to happen. So you can either live in fear of it, or you can embrace that it's going to happen. But if I decide that I'm going to do a project, or that I'm going to do a thing, I end up doing it before I can think too much about it. Because if I think too much about it, then I'll defeat myself into not doing it, and then I'll resent myself later for having had not. And Howie, even when I was sitting in the green room when I filmed my special last year with Howie, and I was like, "What's advice that you have? You and I are generations apart, but we're in the same industry." And he just said, not to rip off Nike, but it is just to do it. It is just go and do it, because if you If you don't, then you're gonna talk yourself out of not. And that was just advice that I very much cherished. And I never want to appear arrogant or like I have an ego, and I think that comedy is incredibly good. I think comedy is the best industry at keeping you in place, because even if, I mean, you can have a good set, or you can have a project that's successful, or a thing that succeeds, or whatever, and the second you start to indulge it, comedy it turns and it comes around, and it gives you something that offers a piece of humility, or it puts you back in your place. Or, I mean, that's why comedians, and I don't know the industry. I'm sure musicians are very similar, and I'm sure there's other artists that have to be similar, but once something, like, comedians are just a different breed, in that we'll do anything, anywhere. It's that kind of grind. Like, I've performed outside with like, where there was no my microphone. It was just a park for like 12 people, and they didn't have a mic, so they made us hold a banana. I performed in living rooms with for like middle-aged women's book clubs, and people were like, they had sandwiches, and there was no mic. I just performed in a living room. I performed at old folks' homes. I performed in Korean barbecues where the grill was louder than the microphone amp. I mean, I performed kids parties. That's been terrible. I have bombed just over and over and over, like, just over and over again. And each time you end up learning something, but it was because I ended up saying yes to it before I could defeat myself out of not doing it.
And like, there's nothing wrong with that either, by just doing all those things. I've had other comedians on here that have talked about, like, you know, it'll be a Tuesday night and they're performing at a laundromat.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, there's like the year before I did 500 sets, I had the goal to perform in 101 different stages. I picked 101 because 101 is like, you know, like when they say like, you know, like intro to whatever 101. Like, in my head I was like, oh, the logic of that, and, you know, I'll do 101 different stages, so different places. So I'm in LA, and I would drive out to, you know, I would drive down to San Diego or whatever, just to do, you know, open mics or whatever. So that could be like a 4-hour drive, just to hit different places. And somehow, like I said, the universe was just good about being like, you know, someone would see me performing like down in San Diego, and they would be like, you know, hey, I've got this show. It's a small show, but do you want to do this? And in my head, I was like, boom, there's another stage that I get to do in getting closer to the goal that I set. So, and I forgot to mention earlier on in my career. From when I first started, I had done like this comedy competition, and that video went on YouTube, and Bo Burnham, the comedian Bo Burnham, he found that clip on YouTube, and he got a hold of my management and asked me to open for him. And this was, man, 3 or 4 years ago. And so just from that clip, and he was always someone who I had just, you know, I had admired greatly. And so that was just another thing that was just, it was like my hard work was, you know, it was hopefully paying off. And every single day after the injury, or after I got out of the hospital, and I had done that first open mic, I went to this like this cigar lounge, and I'll occasionally have a cigar, but there was nobody there because it was like 10 a.m. and I don't know who's smoking a cigar at 10 a.m. But I would go there just because it was a place where I knew I had to write more and more material, and I would spend the whole day there, and then go to work at night at the comedy club, and then wait until the open mic later that night, and then I would do it, and then, you know, I would wake up and you wash, rinse, repeat for as long as so I could build 45 minutes to an hour, so I could eventually do colleges, because that's how much time they needed to do. So the trajectory of my career has just been, I don't know, man. It's exhausting right now talking about everything that I had to do. I'm more. I almost talk about it like I can't believe that I would do some of the things that I would do. But again, it's such a humbling career path, because the second that you start thinking that you're funny, or that you start thinking that you're the shit, it gets the rug gets pulled out from under you. So.
Who else have you opened for?
I opened for Bo for I think like 14 shows, and then I did a show. I used to open for Ralphie before he. But that was about the same year. I opened for him a few times, and let's see who else is there was I think that's about it as far as like the bigger guys that I've like who've asked me to like come with them, and that's kind of a cool thing to be able to pass down, because I'm in a position right now where I have a ton of friends who I think are, God, I think they're just so funny. My friends are easily way funnier than I am. And they would deny that, but to them, they're the funniest people, that you could be around. And so what I do now is when I travel on the road, I always bring like a friend, who's also a comic to come open for me, and they're always very, very, they're very gracious about expressing to me how happy they are to do that, just because the audiences that come see me are very nice people, and I want to give them the opportunity to perform in front of people that they deserve to, only Bo and Ralphie, I guess, were the only two people who had ever reached out to me to say, hey, I know you're doing these crappy gigs in a laundromat or at a Mongolian grill or in a hospital or whatever, but so it's kind of the nice thing to be able to do. Once you get to headline, you get to kind of you pass it down, like pass down the opportunity to say, hey, here's more opportunities to come perform in clubs, so these clubs can see you and hopefully book you, in independently, and then you'll be sent off on your way.
Yeah.
And what's also interesting about that is my friends are all easily 5 to 13 years older than me. So they should be. I want them to have the same opportunities to succeed.
Yeah. And I read online that you were also on a game show. Huh? You competed with Michael Costa.
I did it. Idiot Test with Michael Costa. Michael Costa, this was so funny, and yeah. Ben Glebe is the host, and he's so funny too.
How was it on that show?
Oh, it was great. It's my stigma in my own head is always finding the appropriate time to say to the audience, hey, I stutter, just so they're aware or whatever. And I think Ben was great about playing off of that and letting that happen, and that always helps, because some people might not be aware of it, or aware of who I am, or aware that I'm aware that I talk about it. But it's a thing where you have to address it so people are put at ease. It's like, yeah.
All right. So how can the listeners find you? You're on Instagram, Twitter.
Oh yeah, I'm on all of it. I mean, it's at the Drew Lynch. That's for Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. But if you want, you can see, we talked about, you can see me on You can see me on the on my YouTube channel every week, as we're doing 2 to 3 videos a week now. So.
And your tours are on your website too?
Oh yeah, yep.
All right, and is there anything else you want to tell listeners before we end this?
No, just I don't know, just go. I guess I just play softball. I guess I don't know. You'll get a career. I don't know. Good advice.
All right. Well, thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
And I hope you come back on again.